Hello, I'm John Cooper, General Manager at Prairie Farms. We are a farmer-owned dairy cooperative. This means our company is owned by over 600 farm families who are critical members of society. We understand the dedication and care it takes to feed a family because we're all part of a family as well. This June, in celebration of National Dairy Month, we are proud to partner with our friends at Feeding South Dakota to help ensure everyone can enjoy the wholesome goodness dairy brings to the table. Here's how you can help. When you donate to Feeding South Dakota this month, Prairie Farms will match your gift, doubling the impact for families who need it most. Fighting food insecurity is of the utmost importance to both Feeding South Dakota and Prairie Farm. Together, with your help, we can make a meaningful difference to ensure everyone has access to the essential vitamins and nutrients that real dairy provides. Visit feedingsouthdakota.org/dairy to learn more and give today. From everyone at Prairie Farms and Feeding South Dakota, thank you.
A short-term solution. It met a need, and it doesn't anymore because it's not what your community needs. You know what your community needs. And that's I think that's the really important factor in fighting hunger across the state, because you're right, it exists everywhere. It doesn't matter how influential your county is, how populated or unpopulated. It exists in every county, not just in South Dakota, but in the nation. And it's going to exist. It's a big fight. It's a lofty goal for Feeding South Dakota to end hunger. But we have to do it together. And your community and your county really show people how to do that. And I think that's a really beautiful thing. Welcome to this week's episode of 50 Faces of Feeding South Dakota. We're glad you joined us again, as this month we're exploring community-led solutions and bringing in guests who can talk a little bit about what the fight against hunger looks like right in their community. Today we have some gentlemen here from Madison, South Dakota, Jeff and Eric, and we're going to have a great conversation about how things have been going in Madison with that fight against hunger in today's current situation, how their two organizations work together, and why it's important that communities are taking care of communities. Jeff and Eric, thanks for joining us. Why don't we start by letting you each introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are.
I'm Jeff Nelson, lived in Madison for a very long time, was involved in organizing the Lake County Food Pantry in 1983, and since that time have been working hard with a strong partnership with the Interlakes Community Partnership to provide food in Lake County.
Hello, I'm Eric Kunzweiler, CEO of Interlakes Community Action. I've been with the organization for almost 25 years. Been the CEO for 3 years. I echo Jeff. We have a great partnership with the Lake County Food Pantry. Interlakes Community Action has over 100 different funding sources, so food is something we do focus on, but we also focus a lot of other supports for the community and for the families that live in the community, such as housing, employment, other types of supports that a family can have.
So we talked about that a little bit off air about the importance of that, and Jeff, you and I kind of had a little back and forth on that. But the food pantry and ICAP are in the same building, right? I'm reading this correctly, correct? So why is that important?
It's part of the partnership that began when we organized the food pantry in Lake County, and we were clearly aware that it was going to be important to have partners. And one of the key partners to provide access was an organization like Interlakes Community Action Partnership, which has employees that are available throughout the week to distribute food for us. And that was the agreement. We actually shook hands on that concept that the food pantry would collect the food, do the fundraising, organize the food, and ICAP would be our partner and designate one of its community service worker positions to do the day-to-day distribution of that food.
Running of the food pantry, which can be a challenge in many communities when it's volunteer-led.
It is. It does a little good to raise a lot of money, have a lot of food, but not provide ongoing access.
Yeah. And then also, in addition to food, that allows opportunity to talk about greater resources, like you mentioned, Eric, that are available. Because we know that if somebody needs food access, they likely need help in other ways because there's a root cause that has led to that food insecurity. So you talked about a couple things, but how does that work, Eric, when somebody comes in to the food pantry and maybe it's identified that there's a greater need?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in all of our 14 counties that ICAP operates in, we have that point of contact or our community service workers. The community service workers are well versed within their communities, knowing what resources are available. So when a person would come into the Lake County Food Pantry for food assistance, we also assess any other needs they may have at that time, whether it's housing or employment needs or any other kind of family support. That it's a plethora of different things that we see all the time. And so it's just a perfect fit to have that in the same building as our community service worker to be able to help them with the food and then to assess their needs.
So I was in Madison a couple weeks ago and did a little bus tour with Mayor Ron, who I asked if he would do a governor run. I think Mayor Ron's great. He's done some really big things in Madison, including bringing in some industry and employment. And he talked about the really low unemployment rate in Madison. And that, now there's a daycare center being built because that was identified as a great need for the residents of Madison. When it comes to food insecurity, what have you seen in Madison for trends? I mean, it's been over 40 years that the food pantry's been doing this work. How has that evolved over time?
Well, over time, we started with the focus on delivering emergency food. Families that find themselves just with no other resources, no other options to put food on the table. And that core mission has continued for 43 years. However, during that time, the food pantry has identified other needs in the community and broadened our programs to include the distribution of school supplies. We did that beginning in 1993. And in the last 10 years, we've been able to partner also with the Salvation Army to provide school shoes along with school supplies. Also, 15 years ago, we finally put together the resources to be able to sponsor a backpack program. So now all students in each of the three public school systems in Lake County, each week during the school year, we provide this year it was 180 kids, more or less, every week with school supplies. The last piece that we have added that has been really valuable to us is to conduct a Christmas program where we provide food, but along with that, sponsor an angel tree program. This last year, we sponsored 172 families and 308 kids that got over 600 gifts at Christmas time. So all of those programs fit together to try and identify or to try and meet unmet food needs in Lake County.
So it seems to me that starting as an emergency food access point was great, but it has evolved into more than that. It's evolved into families who need that regular access, and then also sort of those things that every family gets that they're lacking, and the things that are important. School supplies are so important. I mean, we talk about food being an impact on a child needing to learn, but they also need the pencils and the notebooks and the calculators. But
I think one of the things that has been so valuable to the food pantry is the ability to be a partner with ICAP that gives the opportunity in each and every user of the food pantry. It's not an obligation, but it's an opportunity for them to be introduced to other needs that clearly are going on in those households. And I know Eric understands this and can describe those programs more completely than I can, but that has really been a valuable part of our practice.
Sure. Because food, fundamental, you meet that need, but if the lights aren't turning on or if the water isn't running,
Yep.
those are additional concerns. I mean,
Yep.
we've had, kids that we've met before that say, well, my front door doesn't lock. And so they're
Yeah.
worried about their safety, and they don't need our food. They need somebody to help come in and help
Exactly.
them feel safe. Eric, do you want to talk a little bit about those kinds of programs? And
Absolutely. So ICAP's core funding source is the Community Services Block Grant, and that's a federal funding source. It's very flexible. That doesn't happen very often with the federal
no, it
government.
doesn't. Is
Flexible
it
funding
still in
source.
existence?
It is.
Okay, good.
It is.
Good.
Right now. That's another conversation
today.
for another podcast. But
Yes.
so within that Community Services Block Grant, ICAP does an in-depth community needs assessment of all of our communities every other year, so every 2 years.
Okay.
Food is always a top 5 need. In fact, I think it moved up with our most recent community needs assessment to number 1, which has always been housing. So
Interesting.
yes, it
And
is.
ICAP's primarily on the eastern side of South Dakota, right?
Yep, 14 counties,
okay.
right up Interstate I-29, as far south as Turner County and as far north as Grant County.
Okay.
Everything in
Housing was
between.
number 1.
Housing is usually number 1. It's
Okay.
always a top 5
Yeah.
need. But
Yeah.
those supports that Jeff's talking about, I mean, ICAP does a lot with food. So we host many food pantries throughout our 14 counties. We have a senior dining program, Meals on Wheels, that people can relate with. We're looking to expand not only in our 14 counties, but possibly statewide with our Frozen Meals Initiative, which is kind of like a Schwann's type meal,
Yeah.
right? To food deserts. And we're very excited to even be talking to your CEO here later this week, I believe, to talk about a possible partnership
Right.
on delivering meals to the western counties that you guys,
Yeah.
already distribute food
The
to.
senior box program.
Yep. So that's exciting stuff. Within our block grant, we serve a lot of different programs, such as helping people with gardens, growing their own nutritious food. We partner with the child care center you mentioned in Madison with the mayor. We're partnering with them to provide the meals for them. We've got our Head Start programs that we feed over 375 kids every day, nutritious meals as well. So the other supports, though, we really focus a lot on housing, which if you don't have a roof over your head, that's the most basic need besides food, right?
Well, right, but you're right. I mean, food fuels you. It helps with good brain energy and can help you think about the next thing, right? But housing is safety, and that's just as important as food, right? I mean, even some of the homeless individuals that I've had opportunity to talk to, our mobile distribution doesn't work for them because they don't have a place to store food.
Sure.
So they don't want the frozen and refrigerated items because they don't have a place to put it. That's why that housing is so important.
Absolutely right. Housing is very important. And, most of the times when we work with families that need housing, it could be, we're pretty much focused around emergency services.
Okay.
And so housing, food, the utility assistance that you're talking about, water assistance,
Yeah.
all of the above. And that's all important.
So do people have to qualify for ICAP services? Like, is there a income threshold, or, how do they show the need?
Yeah.
Or is it sort of, because here's the deal. I could be fine one day and maybe my spouse has a medical issue and suddenly my medical debt is great and I'm working and, my income level is decent, but I still can't put food on the table. So how do you manage through that?
Our community service workers, our frontline workers, will work with each individual family on each individual case-by-case basis. I mean, you're exactly right. An emergency could pop up for any family at any time, and each program that we have at ICAP, we primarily serve low-income families and the elderly. However, your circumstances can change overnight, and so that's what our community services workers are there to help navigate that for anybody.
And let me add to that I think food pantries in general, but certainly the food pantry in Lake County, as we talk to other food pantries and learn from them, one of the things that is absolutely essential is that the people who find themselves in the circumstances that they have to come to a food pantry for help don't need to have anyone asking them, do you really need this? Let me tell you that in the 43 years that I've been involved in the food pantry, we have continued to use a simple mission statement, and that is that we provide food to the hungry without judgment. What we do is offer a hand up to bridge, hopefully, into better circumstances for them.
Yeah.
And by being able to connect housing, broader food access, and some of the programs that ICAP has available, just becomes so essential to enabling those who can to move to a better situation. And that's really what the goal is. I mean, there's lots of opinions that get voiced about, well, these are people that should work. I mean, that's kind of a great hook for some people.
Yes.
The truth of the matter is, in Lake County, I actually looked it up last night. The unemployment rate in Lake County is 1.8% of the population. So essentially, having worked in business for a long time before I retired, when you have 1.8% unemployment, you have essentially full employment. So the families that are showing up are working,
Yes.
but they find themselves, as you had described, with something that has pushed them into a situation, whether it's the price of groceries going up, a unexpected, the car needs to go into the shop to get fixed, and then those families, they're faced with very difficult choices. Do I buy medicine for the kids? Do I put food on the table? Do I pay the rent? Do I pay the gas bill? And those are choices that, fortunately, I've never had to make. But they're the reality of day-to-day challenges that many in Lake County, a county that actually I think is a pretty prosperous county in this state. But this is a need that exists everywhere.
Yes.
It's a basic, fundamental need, and in my opinion, right as a human being to have access to food.
You're exactly right. And I no pun intended, but this is like the perfect recipe for success. We often hear people say, last month was hard. I've never been here before. It takes a lot for somebody to come and ask for help, especially in the Midwest. And so I think one of the things you said that is so important to point out is it's not always the same person that's being served. So when Feeding South Dakota says we're serving on average 12,900 families a month in our mobile distribution program, it's not always the same family. Sometimes it is. Sometimes there are, these great circumstances that prevent somebody from coming out of food insecurity. But really, it's kind of this revolving people that we're serving, because hopefully with the food access and the additional support, they're changing their situation or overcoming it. But you still need to be available for the next family or the next situation that happens.
Yep.
And I think that's such an important thing to point out, because there can be stigma around people who are hungry or judgment of whether they need it or not. Yep. And it's so important to understand that, yes, somebody might be pulling up in a nicer vehicle, but they might have borrowed it from their boss or their neighbor, or they might be picking up for somebody else. We shouldn't make those assumptions. And it sounds like over the 43 years of the food pantry, that is definitely something you've grounded yourselves in.
Without judgment. The Lake County Food Pantry, for all of last year, we served about 60 families on average a month. And most people are surprised when the people that live in Lake County, when they hear that number, it is a number that kind of sets them back in their chair.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the challenge in the work that Feeding South Dakota does, that ICAP performs. These are real needs of real people that are finding themselves in circumstances that, frankly, none of us would like to ever have to face.
And I think it's so great that you said it's something you haven't had to experience yourself, and I haven't either. So when I have the opportunity to, work one of our programs and help serve people, what I really appreciate is the reality that I get to see, and it just drives my passion for my work even more, because I know people are needing what we're providing, and that it's going for a greater good. I mean, it's going because they want to do better. You see kids in the car, you see, elderly, you see all kinds of people, right? And so it's just important that we can provide that mixed with the next step, the next thing that can help bring them forward. Because ICAP, you also help with like employment searches and resume building and things like that. So, when people need work, and if that's the challenge, you can help them get there. You can help provide those resources. But you've talked a little bit about, the county and the community, and this wouldn't be possible without that support. Can you talk about some ways that the community supports your work?
Well, the food pantry in Lake County, we rely virtually 100% on donations. So we consider community service organizations, lots of churches, businesses, individuals. Our fundraising comes in the form of $5 and $25 and $100. So we don't have single sponsors, and we're pretty deliberate about that because it's part of the education that needs to occur for people to understand the needs that occur in our community. So partnering with the food pantry aligned itself with Feeding South Dakota in 1995. My, oh my, I looked back and I thought it's been that long. But it's another essential part of being able to have access to what I describe as kind of wholesale food that can get on the shelves. Now, we also benefit from the letter carriers that do a food drive. It's very good. The scouting organizations do community-wide, county-wide collection of food. The 8-person 4-H club, they do. So all of those resources are contributions, really, that fit together to make possible the resources that are necessary to provide emergency food.
How about you, Eric? How's community partnering with ICAP?
So the beautiful thing about community action is we have a board of directors that are made up of 3 sectors. One is the low-income family sector, the private sector, and then public sector. So we have county commissioners that serve on our board. But there's, going to that fact is your county commissioners are usually pretty up to date on what the community needs are, right? But with the community action movement, maximum feasible participation, so the low-income sector representatives on our board of directors actually get to help us plan how we deliver services within those counties based on those highest needs that we talked about through our community needs assessments. Going back to what Jeff said about the that link between ICAP and the food pantry, I think ICAP's bread and butter is case management. So it's not just helping somebody out with food, it's actually talking through their individual situations and coaching them and helping them get to the next level of their life to hopefully become self-sufficient. Our goal is to get them off of all the public supports. Maybe right away when they come into ICAP, we get them on, a lot of supports, but our goal eventually is to get them off the supports. Same thing with housing. We work with these families through what we call a housing stabilization plan. So our number one goal, let's get them in a house or an apartment. And then we work on all these supports, and the food pantry plays a big part in that.
And I think when I think about our mobile food distribution program, which is something that came out of COVID, it does help serve some rural communities that have food deserts in them, but it doesn't do that. And it doesn't do what Lake County Food Pantry is doing, right? It doesn't provide. It provides that one need that is fundamental, but it doesn't help move someone along in their journey. And we even struggle connecting people with the right place to go to move them along in their journey. Because there are some resources that even if you're in our line, you will not qualify for. SNAP is an example. WIC might be an example. And our programs seem to kind of, and I would guess the food pantry as well, serve those people who are in that gap, right? Who don't have SNAP benefits, and so they can't go to the grocery store and pick what they need, but they still need to put food on the table. And that could change with an economic change. I mean, that COVID is a great example of that. COVID actually lowered the food insecurity rate across the nation because of all of the additional benefits that were provided. People became food secure. And then when that went away, at the same time inflation was going up, now we've flipped it again. And we continue to see that need rise. But it's different this time because now people are working. It's not because those working places have closed. It's just that continued expense that keeps going. And so it's important to give those resources. It's important to make those connections. And I just think it's so great that the community identifies it. The community brings it to you. And there's nothing better than having our neighbors facing hunger helping you develop that because they've been there and they know what is needed. And I just think that's just the perfect component for the work that you're doing. Because if you don't get that feedback and that input, we're doing what we think is best, which we haven't been there.
I would observe, Stacy, though, the prioritization of resources to support these kinds of programs is so challenging. We rely so much on the Feeding South Dakota. The mobile program, as you say, was a response to COVID, but we've moved past that now. So, as the reprioritization of the funds that are available that can provide a longer-term sustainability through ICAP and other resources, those are hard choices to make, but they have to be made. Because if there is one thing that has guided the Lake County Food Pantry over its life is that we didn't add programs beyond the emergency food unless we were satisfied that we could sustain that program and find the support for that program. So when we added school supplies, we said, okay, we got to raise a little bit more money to make that work if we got the underlying support in the community in order to make that possible. The same thing occurred with the backpack program. Our backpack program has a huge cash outlay, and we couldn't have even considered that back in 1983. But as we built our understanding within the broader community of Lake County of what the needs were, and the people began to say, volunteers came to us and said, let's use the food pantry as a springboard to broaden your mission. So it's really remaining focused on the mission, using the highest priority you can of the limited resources that are available. Yeah. And I know ICAP, I happen to be on the board of directors. We spend a lot
I see how this is going today.
We spend a lot of time focusing on that. But the truth of the matter is, in any organization, you must do that. And sometimes you have to make hard choices. So, I mean, I respect very much the Feeding South Dakota having to relook at the resources that you have available. And you talked, there was some discussion about food deserts. I think the good news for Lake County is that we have got opportunities that have been developed by volunteers in conjunction with ICAP over a long time that has probably developed more resources than many counties. So I don't think Feeding South Dakota nor Eric or I feel like it's a loss for Lake County that Feeding South Dakota is saying maybe there's higher priority needs that we can use our limited resources to meet elsewhere.
Yeah, and that's a great springboard and just to kind of bring everybody into the loop, it really, everything we've talked about and the fact that Lake County is so strongly supported by community really helped our team come in and say, hey, Jeff, we've got this mobile distribution going over here, and we're here once a month for an hour. And we're given food that's pre-packed. There's not choice. But you guys are really doing it. You have a great thing over here. And so this doesn't seem like the right place for Feeding South Dakota to be right now, because you can serve this community, and we can take that and we can relocate it into a more rural community or into a place where we're not right now that needs that food, because you're getting the food and you're getting the resources, and we can just have people come to you. And we know that you're going to take care of them because you have access to us, and we can make sure you have the food that you need to serve the people. And it really was just a great example of why community-led solutions are important. And to your point, you've been a food pantry since 1983. Feeding South Dakota came in 2020, 2021 during COVID, right? And already
with the mobile program.
Right, with the mobile program.
Yeah.
So already we've identified, like, that was a short-term solution. It met a need, and it doesn't anymore because it's not what your community needs. You know what your community needs.
Yeah.
And that's I think that's the really important factor in fighting hunger across the state, because you're right, it exists everywhere. It doesn't matter how influential your county is, how populated or unpopulated. It exists in every county, not just in South Dakota, but in the nation. And it's going to exist. It's a big fight. It's a lofty goal for Feeding South Dakota to end hunger. But we have to do it together. And your community and your county really show people how to do that. And I think that's a really beautiful thing.
One of the opportunities that arises as you put different resources together is the ability to also seize opportunities. And I want to give so much credit to the Lake County Commission. And Lake County is no different than any of the other counties in the state. They are very challenged with the responsibilities that they have for infrastructure and many things. But here is an example of a opportunity that became available because the resources for food in the county were recognized by the Lake County Commission. When the ARPA funds were made available during COVID, the Lake County Commission received, I think it was $100.5 million. So rather than using that for roads, many other priorities that they had, the Lake County Commission decided to offer opportunities to nonprofit organizations in the county to improve their services. So the Lake County Food Pantry made application for just a shade less than $150,000 to make as a contribution to ICAP, which at the time was in the process of acquiring a building that we'd rented for a long time for our headquarters and renovating it. So the $150,000 that was awarded to the food pantry by the Lake County Commission enabled us to finally have a real home where we have now got a future that gives us a place where we aren't wondering where we're going to store the food. We had off-site food storage. We had just so many other challenges. So we're doing more with less volunteers, but it came about because the resources were in place. There was an understanding within the county that this is a priority need, and I, along with the city of Madison, the schools have come to understand that they can devote time of their teachers and administrators to get those backpacks to the kids. I mean, all of those opportunities didn't arise by accident. They were deliberate. We were prepared because we had good partnerships. We had good understanding. And I think that those are it takes patience for sure. Things don't always go as you would like them to. But the opportunity to bring together when there are other opportunities, whether it's through Feeding South Dakota or your local county commissions,
School
those
boards, lots of
well,
places.
it creates a future for
Yeah.
the ability to provide these kind of needs.
Well, speaking of future, what do you think the future looks like of the Lake County Food Pantry?
Well, I think it's very solid. I mean, obviously, 43 years. We also have, when we started, one of the things that we said is we're going to spend our money on food to provide to people. We're not going to have a overhead. We're not going to pay people. So as I recruit and all of us recruit others to get involved in the mission of the food pantry, we say the only thing we're going to pay you with is thank you for doing this. It's a great service. So I think it's a business model, and it does have to be a business, but you have to be willing to adapt to your partners. You have to be willing to ask people to give you a little grace when you don't do it right every time. But as long as you have a core of people that believe in the mission, understand the challenge, and are willing to work with other partners, I see no reason that it isn't going to have a good future. Although I would say the best thing that could ever happen to me as a volunteer of the food pantry is that we could dissolve it because we've met these needs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Eric, how about ICAP? What do you think the future of ICAP looks like?
Yeah, I mean, just like you mentioned, your lofty goal is to end hunger. Ours is to end poverty. So, to Jeff's point, it all starts with partnerships, and we've been really successful over the last few years on creating key partnerships to deliver more services and get more access to things like food and housing to the people that live in our service area. ICAP has some lofty goals coming up here in the next year or so, and that is to develop a commercial kitchen based out of Madison. And this commercial kitchen will allow us to have the ability to increase the capacity to make more frozen meals, to get out to those food deserts. And I'm really excited to talk about that with Feeding South Dakota later this week, what our plans and our goals there are. But yeah, I mean, when we go through these in-depth community needs assessments, we know the needs are there. They continue to be there. They continue to rise. We talked a little bit about federal funding and the uncertainty there. And it's not the first time ICAP's been threatened to have programs cut. It won't be the last time, but we've always come out successful. So the easiest thing to do and for people to agree with is feeding the elderly, feeding the little kids, and feeding families.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that when we have funding challenges like we're seeing right now with federal government, that's where you really see the passion of our communities come through. To your point, Eric, where people step up, even greater in those moments and say, what can I do and how can I help? And so I think that is the future of this work, is the volunteers and the people who remain committed. And I would say we're lucky to have the two of you and your organizations in this fight along with us, because it takes everybody. And it takes, all the community partners, the food banks, the resources, the services, but it also takes the government. It takes the state level government. It takes the federal level government, understanding the needs in the communities and helping to make those things happen. So the more we talk about it, the better, although sometimes that's hard and frustrating.
I would like to add, too, to that. ICAP is actively working, and Jeff's spearheading this movement. We created the ICAP Foundation.
Okay.
And with the overall goal to raise funds and resources so we don't have to rely so much on the federal government to continue the successful work that we do on a daily basis.
So you have to be willing to embrace new ideas. You have to be willing to take some risks. You have to be able to think not where we've been, but where we want to go. And the work that Eric has done and his predecessors at ICAP have always embraced those ideas. I would like to believe, and I think it's accurate to say, that's what the Lake County Food Pantry has done. We have not said, this is where we've been and we're going to keep doing it. No, where we've been is important, but where we're going is what will make the difference as we head into the future.
I think that's beautifully said. We always have to evolve to fit the need at the time. It's not going to always look the same, but in some way we will be providing food assistance and poverty assistance, but it's going to look different as we continue to go.
Well, I'm a little older than you two guys, but I think all of us, most of us, have been raised, particularly in South Dakota, in communities where we understand if your neighbor's house burns down, you go over and ask what you can do to help them. If there's an illness in the family, I was raised to say, thank the good Lord that it's put us in a place that we can help our neighbor. And that is such an important, fundamental mission that I think all of us have as human beings, and that's to take care of our neighbors, to do so and be blessed by the opportunity to be able to provide that help. And some of us, from time to time, find ourselves in this situation where we need that help. So if we can continue to remain focused on helping your neighbor when they're in need and do so without judgment, we will succeed.
Well, I don't think I could wrap this episode up any better. I think you just did an incredible job. But why don't you share just a little bit about if somebody wants to learn more about the food pantry or needs access to the Lake County Food Pantry, where can they find information?
We are on, what is the 211 site? 211?
Helpline Center?
Yeah, the Helpline Center. And within the community, we use social media as best we can. And we rely on Interlakes Community Action also to get the word out. So we have great media support from our local newspaper and radio station and word of mouth. And
so if you Google Lake County Food Pantry, you're going to find something.
You will find something, yes.
Eric, how about ICAP?
The best way to learn more about ICAP is go to our website, interlakescap.com. Again, we're in 14 counties. We have all 14 counties dissected on the webpage that you can actually click on the county and then see all the services that are available through ICAP in that individual county. Each county is different on what's available, but it's a great resource for people to refer to see what's available.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, before we go, I have one question for you. And this was not on the outline because it's intended to catch you off guard. And I'll just let whoever wants to answer it first go ahead. But if South Dakota were a fruit or a vegetable, what would it be and why?
I would say a vegetable.
But what kind? Specifically?
Corn.
Okay. Not the first time I've heard it. Why?
Farmers are out in the field right now as we speak, planting corn. So
hard not to think about it.
Yes.
No, I think Eric hits it right on the bullseye. And we probably should have talked about that with the heritage that this state has, with agriculture being the principal driver of the economy.
Yeah.
Every farmer produces enough food. I don't know what the number is, 180 households.
Yeah.
We feed the world, and I think we can feed ourselves.
Yeah, that's great. Those are great answers. Thank you very much. Well, thank you for joining us again today. A couple of key takeaways I hope that you have is, first of all, if you're in need of food assistance or any other assistance, in every community, there are people there willing to help. So please visit the Helpline Center, any of the resources that Jeff or Eric have shared, or if you head to Feeding South Dakota's Find Food page and enter your city and state, you'll find a listing of food access areas around you. If you are not in need of food access but joined us today just to learn more, this is just one example of many ways that communities are working together in the fight against hunger and to help build stronger, healthier, more resilient communities. I hope that you're able to learn more about your own community and the work that's happening there. Thanks again for joining us. We'll see you next week.